All right, I don't know which side of this you are on, but it didn't work out because one of y'all, potentially both of y'all, are not doing the internal work. You're not going into any form of solitude and doing that internal work that is necessary. So essentially, inside of one or both of y'all is a haunted house. There are ghosts that reside in there from people from the past, traumas from the past, pain from the past. So whatever this is, whether this was a friendship, whether this was a business situation, whether this was family or romantic, it was not going to work out because one or both of you was not doing the internal work. All right. I'm going to assume, we've got 5-5. I'm going to assume that it's only one party that's not doing the internal work, and that party may be asking why, or maybe ruminating on the other party. But you've got to understand that if you're not doing the internal work, you're going to stay in lack mindset. You're going to stay in a place of insecurity. When you don't do the internal work, that trauma, the wounding, your core wounding, the programming that you were raised in, all of those insecurities bubble up and bubble over and cause that conflict between you and everyone else. Okay? So it doesn't matter if it's romantic, it doesn't matter if it's familial, it doesn't matter if it's friend. If you are not doing the internal work, your wounding is going to 151 on the timer bleed onto those that didn't harm you. And people that are doing the internal work, they're not going to stick around for that. They will stick around maybe for a little while and bring things, to the surface and communicate with you for a little while. But once they see that it's a pattern, they're going to get out of there because it's not healthy for them. They can't save you. If you don't want to do the work, the one that is doing the work is going to continue on. Okay? And that's 5 of Swords in reverse. The one that is doing the work isn't going to stay in the insecurities. This is the way that it was originally. The one that is doing the work isn't going to stay and argue with you. They're not going to stay and gossip. They're not going to stay and go tit for tat. They're not going to stay and feed into the insecurities. They're not going to stay and go back and forth. Okay? Because nobody wins that. He may look smug with himself holding the 3 of Swords while they're walking away, but he just lost potentially 2 friendships, 2 family connections, a romantic connection, a business partner. When you don't do the internal work, you essentially make those that didn't cause that internal damage, you make them pay for it. You make them suffer because of it. Because your insecurities come out onto them because of wounding that they didn't cause. All right. This is going to be probably a shorter one, 3 through 3 on the timer. Source, can you wrap this up? Because I think this is pretty cut and dry. Whoever needs to hear this, they're not coming back because they're doing the work and they've already seen that you're not, or because of the lack of work that was done while you were in a connection with them, they've deemed, we can't go back. I'll never trust you again. Whatever was done crossed too many boundaries, crossed too many non-negotiables, and there isn't another go around for me. Whoever is waiting for somebody to come back that's not, they're independent. They're sitting in independence. They're celebrating with people that are similar to them, that have found their own independence. They're celebrating themselves. They're celebrating life. They're not going to go back to a place where they were mistreated, they were mishandled, they were tolerated, they were made to feel like there was something wrong with them. All right? This is where you want to get to, where you can celebrate yourself. You can celebrate your own independence. Standing on your own. Okay? So I'm not sure who needed to hear this, but it wasn't going to work out. Because whatever brought you two together and kept you guys tied together was trauma bonding, was unhealthy habits, unhealthy codependency, unhealthy people pleasing. And they've broken this. If you want to get into a better place in your life, 5:15 on the timer, you need to focus on your internal world, do it for you, and break yourself out of those bindings and reach your own place of independence and celebrating that, and then align with whoever is supposed to be in your life then. If you're healing, if you're going on a journey because, at the end of this, I'm going to have the collective, at the end of this, I'm going to have somebody else, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and more than likely you're not going to align to that person that you're wanting because you're only doing the work for them, which means you're not actually doing the work. You're just going through the motions. That's like somebody getting sober, 555 on the timer, or saying that they're getting sober for their partner. They're not actually putting in the solid foundation to get and stay sober because that's not what they truly want. They are just doing it to appease their partner. And I don't speak of that as somebody who had that issue. I speak of that as walking through that with my late husband. He only did it because of me. He didn't genuinely want to be sober. So he went through the motions for me, which landed him relapsing over and over again. He couldn't build that solid foundation because that solid foundation isn't something that he wanted. If you're not healing and changing your life because it's something you want, you're not going to build that solid foundation, and you're not going to align to whatever you're trying to align to or whoever you're trying to align to. Stop focusing outside and start doing that internal work. 654 on the timer. And for that person that is wondering why it didn't work, that's why. Because they haven't put in the work. They're not putting in the work. Maybe this isn't their lifetime to put in the work. Happy healing.